right, so I'm going to give you a couple ways to make your construction and rehab projects move at lightning speed. I often get asked a lot, how do we get things done so quickly? How do you get into a project and 3-4 months later you've renovated 3 units and you're entirely done? So a couple of different things. First, we have to talk about the problem. Why do most projects go slow or move slowly? And it's mostly because of liquidity. If you had, what most people don't understand is when you get a rehab loan from a bank, a construction loan or hard money, typically what you're doing is you're borrowing money, but there's an assumption that you get all that money up front. So let's say you have a $100,000 rehab budget. The bank doesn't come in and say, hey, we're going to give you $100,000 up front. What they typically do is they say, when there's construction draws, when you pay for demo, we're going to reimburse you for the demo. When you pay for electrical, we'll reimburse you for electrical. So technically, if you had $100,000 up front, you can get deposits out to subcontractors really quickly. You can get your demo done, but you don't have $100,000 up front. What you end up having is you have to borrow a little bit of money, or you use your own capital, and you pay for demo. And then once demo is done, the bank comes out, they review the building, and they say demo is done, and then you get that money back. And then you can use that new money that you're reimbursed for to go out and pay for the deposit on your roofing company, or the deposit on your siding company, or whatever it is you want to do. So in a perfect world, you'd have $100,000 up front. You can get all your subcontractors, hanging off the side of the house, and everything would move pretty quickly. But that doesn't work that way. So how do you gain more liquidity? If you had more liquidity back into your business, then you can have subcontractors hanging off the side of the house altogether. So a couple different things. One is, I think most people are familiar, you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's or one of your supply houses and get a charge account. You can go to Home Depot, you can get 5-10 grand. And what you can do with that is you can go out and you can, maybe you buy the studs or you buy the roofing material and you just pay for labor, or just provide some type of materials that you can now pay for, that you wouldn't have to wait for. What most people don't know is that you can also do this at a lumber yard. They call themselves lumber yards, but they do a lot more than just studs. We have several lumber yards here in Boston, Nebs, New England Building Supply, Lumber 84, Mazzone Lumber, and they're not just wood. They actually supply cabinet materials on a credit account. They supply wood, they supply decking materials, they supply siding, they supply roofing, all the different things that you need to build a house technically can go on credit. And we have accounts that are upwards of $50,000 to $100,000, which pushes a lot of liquidity back into what we need. Now we just have to figure out how to go and get labor with our guys. So that's one thing, is like I said, your projects are slowed down by liquidity a lot of times. So if you can insert more liquidity back into your business, that's something that allows you to speed up the project, tenfold. So one of the other things that you can do is, speaking on the same terms of liquidity, is building good relationships with your subcontractors. If you build good relationships with your subcontractors, a lot of times they won't require a deposit up front from you. Sometimes they'll say, okay, we have our own lumberyard accounts or whatever, and we can basically leverage it until you get too rough. So a lot of times what'll happen is I'll go to a subcontractor and I'll say, okay, well, we don't have the framing cost right now, or the framing budget, but we need you to start framing. And what they'll basically say, okay, the budget is 10 grand, or the contract that we're gonna have with you is 10 grand. At rough, when you get your rough inspection done, you can give us the cash then, or you can give us half at rough, and then we're also going to do your finish work with you, and you can give us the other half at finish. So having good relationships with your subcontractors will require you to put less down for them to start the work, which will allow you to get them in, get the work done, and then have the bank come in afterward and reimburse you for what's already done. All right, guys, so number 3, building and construction management software. So we use a lot of in the past, we've used a lot of Excel spreadsheets. We basically just kept track of our budget, the initial budget, and then what we spent, and then the difference. So we had 3 columns. It was basically initial budget, $100,000, what we actually spent, $110,000, or where the budget was coming in, and then our overage was in that last column, our overage, or if we had any shortage or anything like that, in that last cost column, so we can constantly see where we were. Today, running several projects, 4 or 5 projects at a time, that becomes really difficult. I was updating a section of the spreadsheet while somebody else was using it, and there was conflicts and stuff like that. So what we use today is a project management software. I'm pretty sure there are tons of them out there, rehab management softwares. We use a software called Builder Trend, and what Builder Trend does is it basically just allows us to see where we are in our budget. Builder Trend's a great software also because it also does timelines as well. If we know we want to, schedule a project in to be completed in the next 3 or 4 months, we schedule everything out, and it actually updates the project along the way and says, okay, you got this done in 2 weeks less time than you were supposed to. You're actually going to finish now 2 weeks earlier, and give us kind of that updated date. If something takes a little bit longer, the schedule is now adjusted based on the sequencing. And the other thing that we do is, as we improve our process, and you should absolutely do the same thing, is we have checklists and systems for everything, right? So we don't just go into something just kind of winging it. We already know exactly what needs to be done in the bathroom, what needs to be done in the kitchens. We have checklists, we have timelines that we can now pass off to project managers and people that we work with, so we can all be running the project on the same wavelength. And then last but not least, we basically put systems into our business. We put systems in terms of, here's what we do. We build rentals. If you're flipping houses and you want to get creative, that's something different. But we do rentals, and we use pretty much the same material. We use the same paint color. We use the same flooring in all the projects that we do. So it becomes very systematic, and we know exactly, our suppliers know exactly what we're looking for. The pricing out of these materials is a lot easier for us to determine as well. So I would say, like I said, one of the things or a few things that we're doing to speed up the projects, inserting leverage into our business, using systems and tools, building out checklists, and then just building good contractors or good contractor relationships. And if you do those things, you'll be able to crank out these things pretty quickly as well.